Hello, I'm Adam Smith. I'm the Programme Director for Dementia Researcher, and I'm at the 2023 Alzheimer Europe Conference in Helsinki. Whilst at the conference, I'm delighted to be working alongside Alzheimer Europe to bring you insights from people living with dementia and carers who are involved in their work and in making the conference possible. In these 4 shows, we talk about the event, their involvement, and the brilliant work taking place with the European Working Group of People with Dementia and the new European Dementia Carers Working Group. Today I'm joined by Sonata Mačiulskytė and Trevor Salomon. Hello! Hi. Sonata lives in Klaipeda in the western part of Lithuania and is the chair of the European Dementia Carers Working Group. She's also a board member of Dementia Lithuania. This involvement was inspired when her mother was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and started to experience symptoms of pre-dementia in 2015. And as a result of Sonata became her caregiver. Away from that, Sonata was awarded a doctoral degree in social sciences and currently serves as the vice-rector of a university and is chairwoman of the national committee that forms the higher education policy in her country. Trevor is the vice chair of the European Dementia Carers Working Group and lives in northwest London. Following a career as an international marketing director in business software, Trevor chose to step away from his role in 2011 when it became evident he needed to devote time to his wife Yvonne, who started to experience memory problems. She would eventually go on to be diagnosed with young onset Alzheimer's disease at just 57 and is now a care home resident. Trevor supports other carers and always with a positive, decisive outlook on life. He's a regular speaker at events and in the media and has helped raise awareness about those living with dementia and the challenges faced by family members who support them. Hello and welcome to both of you. That was a long introduction,
Hello, Adam.
wasn't it? Sorry. If we weren't already 2 shows in, I think I might try and reduce that introduction.
Yeah, hello Adam and happy Christmas.
Hello and welcome to Helsinki. There's a fun fact for you. Did you know that Helsinki is approximately, or has approximately 1 sauna for every 10 residents? I don't think all 10 people have to share. I don't know, maybe they do, but there's 1 sauna for every 10 residents.
I thought that it will be even less people in one sauna.
Well, you've been in Helsinki for 3 days. Have you had a go? Have you been to sauna?
Look, I know we're in Helsinki, but with apologies to all Finns, it's just not my thing.
Is it not?
No, spending time in a hot sauna and then going into freezing cold water. I'd rather be on a hot beach and go into warm water at the sea.
Well, the conference hotel does actually have saunas, so it's too late now because people are watching have already been and gone.
I think we know that, don't we? We've avoided it.
Okay, well, enough of that. So before I start, for those who don't know, Alzheimer Europe needs an introduction. This wonderful organisation acts as an umbrella, bringing together 41 national Alzheimer's associations from 37 European countries. Their mission is to make dementia a European priority and to change perceptions and policy and practice in order to improve the lives of people affected by dementia. I mentioned the European Dementia Carers Working Group, which is a bit of a long title. We might abbreviate that as we go through in the introduction. Sonata, could you briefly give us an introduction to the Dementia Carers Working Group, why it's been established and what it's been like to get that up and running?
Okay, it is quite a fresh working group, so we still need to create our identity, but anyway, it should complement the European Working Group of People with Dementia. Besides that, we have to also highlight the problems of carers. So we have to be like a supplementary group, but with our own agenda. The group was established by the organization, by Alzheimer Europe organization, and we are advising Alzheimer Europe how to involve carers. We work together with the organization on policy documents, creating policy documents. We also advise in public involvement activities for research projects in which Alzheimer Europe participates. So this is mainly the vision of Alzheimer Europe, how this group should run, or this is the main agenda. But of course, as far as I realized, we can also have something supplementary additionally, and this is our task to do this, to add something unique to the group.
I couldn't agree more. I think all too often we kind of wrap up people living with dementia and carers into this idea that there's just one single package, and we know that perspectives are so different. I mean, you only have to. A few years ago, there was a research priority setting exercise where they asked everybody what their research priorities were, and then broke it down to what the priorities of people living with disease compared to carers were, and they were entirely different. And so you can kind of need both those perspectives for some balance, don't you? Not only because you want the work to come forward, but I think it's important that these things are separated out. Trevor, what's it like to be the vice chair on this group?
Well, I'm enjoying it. I mean, the most important thing for me is to make a difference. I've only met Sonata this week, although we've been working very closely via Zoom and email and phone calls for quite some time. I missed the meeting earlier in the year when we got elected. I managed to be elected without even attending in the first place. But, I look at this rather like I looked at my working life. I really enjoyed the cultural exchange when I was an international marketing director. I missed that since I retired. So for me, it was a chance not only to be involved at a European level, but also to bring a passion to something that I feel very strongly about. And although you can say that carers and people living with dementia have very separate needs and interests, ultimately you can't separate them. You can't.
No. And I think it's interesting as well, being able to bring those different skills to bear that you'll have gained in your professional life now that those can benefit this area that I imagine during your working life this isn't something you would have taken up normally.
This was not my long-term plan. When I stopped working, the intention was to retire and travel and do the things that both my wife and I had a passion for, which was definitely about culture and travel. But life was not meant to be like that. And so I found myself as a carer, and then I found myself being able to use my voice as a carer and to help other people. And that's become a passion in itself.
So both of you have found yourself in this situation, I mean, amazingly volunteering to work involve this group, but didn't expect to suddenly. How did you go about, how do you find out how to even become involved? How do you start being a campaigner and having your voice heard? Because I would imagine there's a lot of people out there who are, spending time with loved ones and would like to do more and just don't know where to start. Trevor, why don't you go first?
Well, it all happened by accident, and that's the truth. I was like every other carer, just doing my job as a carer, getting on with it and not asking for recognition. And what happened was, and it's a long story, but I'll curtail it. My wife had been working for a UK supermarket at the time of the diagnosis, and I actually thought they would fire her because she was already struggling with her job. And instead they said, how can we keep her working? And for another 4.5 years, they kept her working. They changed her role, they changed her working hours, they regularly consulted with me. And when eventually she had to stop working, I wrote to the store manager and thanked him, and I also wrote to the head office and thanked them. And my son, being a teenager, I think he was just past being a teenager, was a social media specialist. He said, Dad, I think we need to tweet our thanks. We need to thank more than head office and the local management. So he tweeted a series of thanks to the supermarket saying, we're really grateful as a family that you helped us maintain Mum's dignity and kept her working. And what we didn't know was that the story was quite unique. Most people do lose their jobs when they get diagnosed. It went viral globally, and within a matter of weeks, I think over 2 million people had read the story. And all of a sudden, we were the attention of the media and the charities, and that's how it became an accidental voice for carers.
That's fascinating. I mean, great.
You can't plan it.
You're not going to name the supermarket. I won't. No, don't. It's okay. No, but that's amazing. That's an incredible story, and that came about. And then, of course, people want to know how how that was.
Yeah. I will name the supermarket because the story's in the public domain.
Yeah, okay.
It's Sainsbury's in the UK.
Brilliant. Sonata, is yours a similar?
No.
No.
But, after being a 24/7 carer, and when my mother was transitioned to care home, I found myself, I have too much time what to do. And I started to look for, to connect with another carers. I found a national association, Dementia Lithuania. I just emailed that I would like to join them. And we maybe what is difference to UK that just very few people are, I would say, brave, or I don't know, it's maybe too stupid to speak out about this.
Yeah.
And I was one of them. So starting to talk publicly about dementia, about caring of people of dementia, that's how I'm here.
So how did you first both hear about Alzheimer Europe?
I heard about it through Alzheimer Society in the UK.
So both through your local, yours the same?
No, I just am too keen and I'm looking for information myself. So I just found, because one country is not enough for me, so I'm going out, and I just found myself.
Brilliant. And so I know you've both been involved in the program today. Well, let's get back to talking about the conference. Sonata, you chaired a parallel session today,
Yes.
and you're speaking tomorrow. What was the session about today? Could you give us a run through that and what it was?
I will give just maybe what was interesting for me, or what was very unexpected for me. So there was I chaired a session named Integrated Care, and there was a presentation about dementia in prison. So we all know that everywhere people live, and in prison too. So they also, and it's much more severe conditions to take care of them. So it was very interesting topic for me.
Because prisons aren't care homes,
Yeah,
right?
and we think that these people, they do not deserve our care of them in general. So it was interesting.
I love that this conference is a platform where those kind of rarely discussed topics, particularly around psychosocial interventions, policies, some of the things that are a little bit hidden in society around dementia are often brought to the surface in this particular conference, more so than so many others. And then you said you're also talking tomorrow.
So I'm not giving a talk. Trevor is doing this, and I'm going to facilitate a workshop after his presentation.
So when we looked at the agenda, Sonata and I, because we were asked if we'd like to have a session, we looked at the agenda and thought there's some amazing presentations, but people are being talked at for most of this conference. We'd like to have an interactive workshop where we will discuss things. So we talked about what the possibilities were. We eventually came up with a topic called what happens when care homes stop caring. So how to manage a care home when you have a loved one in situ and things go wrong, because they do.
And getting different perspectives on that, I can see, is the challenge, because the care system across Europe is so vastly different, isn't it? I mean, between state funding, private funding, and different types of facilities. So that sounds interesting.
Yeah, but when you whittle it all down, although they're different, as you say, the challenges are often identical.
Yeah. Yes.
And a lot of people, they don't have the knowledge or the courage, the know-how to deal with the problems in the right way. People get very angry, emotional, and you need to be very controlled to find your way through problems. That's what I found. So I'm doing a presentation about the things that can go wrong in care homes, with a few personal examples, because that's the best way to get people to relate. And then Sonata's going to follow that with the discussion, which she's going to run.
Perfect. That sounds, I'll be sure to be. I did attend your session you chaired earlier today, because I was interested in the one there was a talk about dementia care plan reviews that happens in primary care, which is something I've had some involvement in over the years. What's it like standing on because the conference room is pretty big. Is this something, I know you've both had or have professional careers. Is public speaking and standing on a big stage like that a new experience for you both?
On such a big stage, yes.
It's not for me. I mean, we weren't today on the big stage, or I wasn't. So we weren't on the big stage, but I've spoken to larger audiences, and actually it's less intimidating the more people there are in front of you, because it's just a blur of faces. When you're in a smaller room, you know that everybody's looking at you and you can see their faces. So ironically, I find that not a more threatening environment, but slightly more pressurized.
Yeah, I can understand that. And have you got any top tips for anybody who might be, say, new to getting involved, and those who, how do you approach that? You're not secretly...
Trevor I'm still struggling with this.
Calm breathing and...
Well, if you're talking about public speaking, you're going to be nervous. I'm nervous, and I've spoken thousands of times. You harness the adrenaline, and if you're not nervous, you're going to screw up anyway, because who isn't nervous speaking? But I think the key thing for anybody who's new to anything like this is start small. Don't start by public speaking. Start by doing an interview like you're doing, but have a written article. Put your name associated to a written article. Then do simple, small interviews, little steps to build up your confidence and work with people who've done it before.
I think an introduction can help as well, can't it? Because I think if people understand, because I think one of the things is you go to conferences, so many research that people come to conferences and expect everybody on the stage to be very experienced professional. I think if you can start with an introduction by saying, this is the first time I've chaired a session, this is what I think people can be far more, come relax and go, right, it's okay. And I thought that was the great thing about the session on the first day, when you knew that the people on stage were carers and people living with dementia, the audience just feels warm and relates, and it isn't going to, this isn't a hostile audience, this is a friendly place.
I mean, I wouldn't have a dig at academics, but academics have a way of presenting. But when you're telling a story and it's coming from the soul, it has a very different impact with an audience. And yesterday's opening session was very hard hitting. I mean, we were all very emotional in the audience just for that reason. They told it how it is.
Oh, that's good. I'm looking forward to your session tomorrow. And I think also as well, the sessions you've chaired have really benefited from having you chair those sessions rather than
you need to ask the audience. You need to ask them, not us.
If you plan to come to our session, take your seat, because you will not have it.
Yeah, good point. We're restricting the numbers who can come in so that we can have an interactive conversation.
Oh, well, rush in. We're almost out of time, but before we finish, we heard about your loved ones living with dementia. Can I just ask you both very briefly what you feel are the key areas that need to be addressed as a priority in dementia care? Trevor, you can go first.
I think education. So empowering yourself with knowledge that you wouldn't have had otherwise if you weren't a carer. Talk to people in the same position. There's nothing like the power of speaking to people who know what it's like to be in your position, and therefore try and always be 1 or 2 steps ahead of where you really will have to be as a carer. And that, it's a stressful, emotional journey, but it helps to reduce both of those elements.
Thank you.
I can say that I really support your idea. Awareness is the main thing, and support.
So we'd like society as a whole to improve the awareness, and if events like this can teach us better ways to go about that, I think that's all for the better. Well, I think that's a good place to stop. Thank you so much to the marvellous Sonata and the unstoppable Trevor. I'm Adam Smith, and it's my pleasure to be bringing you behind the scenes news from 2023 Alzheimer Europe.